Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Marketing Water Cooler podcast. My name is Jeremy Francesi. Thanks for stopping by. Steph, what are we getting into on this one?
Let's talk about the role your people can play in supporting a marketing initiative.
This is one I've been thinking about a lot lately. We always tell our clients like marketing is a culture, not a department, which I'll kind of unpack later. There's a couple of things that people need to consider, especially if you're a functional owner in a small team or you're a functional marketing leader in a team that's growing. You have to start to figure out what role do people play in supporting marketing, especially in this episode, very much so, is for service-based businesses and people in technical industries, or potentially where subject matter expertise plays a part. And the reason I add that is the way your marketing will be effective is if it's perceived as relevant. If I am trying to convey a cybersecurity protocol process solution to a chief information security officer, but I don't intimately know cybersecurity, there's no way to be relevant to that man or woman in that role, that person that is trying to be on the other side of that message. And so if subject matter expertise matters, then you have to figure out, can we hire people that are creators that have expertise? That's why I've been pretty loud about this with certain clients. You're going to see, I'll put this right now on the record, over the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of technical businesses, whether it's healthcare, health IT, medical, you're going to see people hiring professionals serving solely as a communication resource. You're a healthcare company that is selling a software to doctors. Go hire a doctor to help you communicate to the community. They may have been a surgeon for 10, 20 years. They may not want to do surgery anymore. So hire them for $100,000 or $200,000. Maybe give them stock of the company, depending on where you're at. Get somebody that can help bring a very, very effective means of communication to the community that is going to decide if you live or die. Like if you sell to the medical community, do you want to put your entire, and you're selling something that you see as revolutionary? What's the value of bringing on a doctor that's been recognized and is a credible source in cardiology, and you're selling something that improves cardiologists, right? We're going to see a lot more of that. And if we don't, I will be wrong and happily on the record wrong, and we learn. But I'd put all my chips in the basket that says companies that are looking to find a way to relevance will find a way to partner with people that have it. Because back to the other thing, who's the peer? Great marketing helps you connect with people and close the gap. And it obviously helps impact and drive sales. But if you're in a technical space and subject matter expertise matters, they have to view you as a peer, not just a salesperson. They have to see you as somebody that is a contemporary, that is one of them to some extent. So what role do your people play in that? Do your consultants that have no time as is, are they now responsible for doing all that? Right? You have to figure that out. And you have to build a framework where it allows people to walk in and execute. Because if your people don't have the time and they're not making the time, even though if you're the boss, you have 100% control over that, not because of disrespect, but because of tie it to compensation. Like there's 1,000 ways for you to make it a priority, right? Every subject matter expert it needs to produce one technical blog post each quarter and able to be eligible for a bonus. Like there are 1,000 ways to make it something that is a priority, but it comes down to like, how is it being executed on? Right? How is it being executed on? Is it your marketing department's job to go interact with everybody in your company, to talk to them and record meetings and listen to things and learn things and then write blog posts as a secondhand author? They need to know if that's the process. But there has to be a protocol for how subject matter expertise impacts marketing in those industries. And the best way to do it is culture. It is culture. We work with certain clients where everybody's involved. Everybody loves it. And the reason being is because they understand that now they're a part of growth. Their voice is being heard. They have a platform to speak. And we'll talk about that on other episodes. But you have to understand really what the means of communication infrastructure is and how it needs to work, because there are some brilliant people in your organization that provide incredible value that if you tell them right now, you now need to support marketing, they're going to lose their mind because they don't have the time for it. That doesn't mean they're not the right person to help, Because if you hire a marketing person that has no experience in cybersecurity, that has no experience in financial services, investment management, venture capital, private equity, healthcare, how valuable can they be if they don't understand what's relevant to the buyer? There has to be a structure for that. Steph, what do you got? Help me unpack where we can go with this.
I think let's tie this back to sort of, we talked in episode 10 about the role of, an outside marketing agency, their role in producing technical content. So let's tie that back to this and sort of make the parallel comparison.
I think it's about partnership. It really is about partnership. It's about understanding who plays what role in the creation of the message. And for example, when we work with clients, like we interview or film or document and extract value from it. But we know what we're trying to achieve before we walk in, right? So the subject matter expert, we can frame it and say, hey, we only have 45 minutes with you, but here's what we're looking to achieve in the 45 minutes. And then we run our process. But when you're in a technical space, there has to be clarity as to who's responsible for what. So back to your question about episode 10 and the technical content writing, technical media piece, like we have clients that like they handle the writing process when it's short form updates because it's a faster process than us working with them to ask it and extract. It's like, go write the 100-word piece. We'll help give you feedback to shape it. And then it's uploaded and it goes through the web team and everything's good. It really comes down to like, what's the outcome? What's the deliverable? But I do believe that it's best executed in a partnership. If you can have subject matter experts that are motivated and supported and it's a priority and they're able to lean into it, it is the best route. Because if you're a cybersecurity professional, you've been doing it 20 years, who's better than you to talk about it? If you're a financial services professional or an investment advisor and you're actively identifying opportunities, pursuing an acquisition, managing assets, who's better to talk about it, write about it, communicate it than you? So it really, where I want to frame this episode, is understanding that you may be the right person to communicate every sense of what you need to communicate, but it doesn't mean you don't need help doing it. Because if you're too busy, that's not an excuse to not convey value, communicate value to your customers, right? And I think that's the punchline. And so back to like the original question of like, what's the role of your people? Are you hiring influencers to host a show? That way you have a consistent, sustainable process of somebody maybe with a journalism or a content creation background that may know the market. Option. Are you going to have your subject matter experts take the charge and they're the one that it's their job, and marketing maybe helps hold them accountable with who's the target audience, who's the target reader, what's the objective, where's the distribution, how is it going to go? Then they give them the framework that they know it's a website for a key stakeholder in the financial services space. Now go right. There has to be clarity on who plays what role. Otherwise, it just never gets done. Because let's be honest, if you're a subject matter expert and your job is not to create content, it's never going to be the top priority unless you love doing it. And if you don't love doing it, then it's simply one other thing that gets kicked down the list, and then it just never gets done. And so you got to figure out and really, if you can get it to be a culture where people are excited, we're going from 30 to $120 million to do that. We have to get out of obscurity and allow key stakeholders to form an opinion on us, to understand us, to see how we're different. We need to be the host of the industry, not just say who we are and what we do, but what's happening in the space, what's happening today in the space, what happened previously, and where we're going and why it matters to you. I'm just one speaker, one subject matter expert. And within the framework of that conversation, let me give you 2 cents just to give you a little bit of information that makes you a more confident stakeholder at this moment in time. Tomorrow we'll have a little bit more to guide the process, right? And if you can get involved and everybody feels like they're a part of it, even if you're there for 2 years and you move on to your next journey, as a whole, what you do is you mobilize the company through excitement of being a part of something bigger than yourself. And that's where content creation and marketing becomes incredibly powerful, when people feel like they're like, you know what? It wasn't just a blog post, it was forward. And then that's where things can shift. But it comes down to like, it's just your marketing department's job to churn out blog content, even though they don't have a clue about the industry, or maybe they have 2 years of industry experience, but they've never talked to a client. Got to understand what the process is. Any thoughts?
I mean, that all makes sense to me. We've seen such a shift in the marketing world from, sort of celebrity type endorsements in the straight to consumer world. Why not bring it into the business to business world? I mean, I know like over the past 10-ish years or so, it's gone from big figureheads down to like these little influencers who like you have created a following and have gotten your little mind into other people's minds, and people trust you for your opinion.
Yeah,
and that has made all the difference, I think.
It also begs the question, depending on when this episode comes out in a couple of weeks, like what happens when Facebook goes down or WhatsApp goes down and Instagram goes down and the whole marketing strategy is on top of a platform? Like, let's be honest, you might have 1,000-person Facebook group or 1,000,000-person Facebook group. You don't own that group.
Right.
So there has to be a bigger vision for how your marketing connects and closes the gap, because I think there's a little bit of a misguided sense of ownership when you don't have a podcast that has its own reach. You post on platforms that you don't own. You don't have communities that you own. Everything's digital through the doorway of the broker that is a Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. We have to start thinking about things at a broader scale. And what does serve as a transferable value add is community. So back to culture, back to what we're talking about is if you can mobilize your team of subject matter experts to get involved in the Slack channel, get involved in the Discord channel, put out a little bit of a micro blog on their LinkedIn page where they're just writing a post. You get the ability to get people that they're going to call Jack, Allison, Brittany, Sophie. They're going to call the people at your company. They're not going to DM your company on LinkedIn. It's not even a feature you can't even do that, right? But there has to be an understanding of if there's technical skills, technical knowledge, subject matter expertise that's required within the framework of your space. The company doesn't have subject matter expertise. The people at the company have subject matter expertise. So when you think about marketing and culture and how that's framed up, you have to figure out what the role everybody plays is. Are they in communities trying to add value? Are they hosting a show? Are you hiring an influencer who understands the integrated factors of how TikTok works and now their job is to communicate for you? Totally viable solution. But you have to figure out like what role does everybody play and how does it work? And you can test things, but you really have to understand what the game is, because the hardest part about marketing in some sense is getting everybody on board with a shared vision and then also having them be so excited that they want to be a part of it. And when you can have people be excited about it, it's a whole nother story, because then it's not about the 7 people in your marketing department supporting the 14 people in your business development department. It's about everybody is a part of the journey of telling the story that is your growth and why you're helpful to people that matter to you. And it doesn't matter if you're in product, if you're in marketing, if you're in sales, if you're in finance, like everybody is a walking representation of the company. So the ability to have it where everybody sees where they fit into the equation of telling the story, it's incredible value, but even more so when it comes to a technical specialty, if it's so for your industry. What else did we miss? What do we want to touch on here? I want to make sure we're not going round and around and about,
I mean, it sounds like we've covered a lot of stuff, I think. And I think this also gives companies a way to brag about who they have under their hood. If you have the best guy for this job, why not tell the world about it and like make him talk and be, 100%. So you can say, look, we have hired these people because they are great and they are going to do that great work for you.
100%. No, it's spot on. And I'll throw one thing out there, because I know somebody watching this or listening to this that hears that. It's like, well, what if they get poached because they see them on a blog or an article or a podcast and they get recruited from somebody?
People can only leave a job they don't want to leave.
Right. It's one of those things that like, what are you going to do? Right. Like there's the old adage and this has been rinsed and repeated a gazillion times, but it's like, the CEO goes to in this kind of general story, it's like the CEO goes to the CFO and says, hey, we need to really train and invest in our people, make them better, make them feel valued. We need to invest in them. And the CFO says, what if we spend all that money and invest in them and then they leave us? Like, what happens then? And the CEO says, what if we don't invest in them and they stay?
Right. Or what if you don't invest in them and they still leave?
Right. It's just a question of, are you playing offense or are you playing defense? Because time is ticking. There's no way to do nothing. You're either moving forward or backwards. And figuring out the culture matters. Figuring out how people play their part matters. People want to figure out where they are in the big scheme of things. The average millennial changes jobs every 16 to 18 months. Boomers, a little bit more, but it's still people are moving jobs. So the question isn't, are they going to stay with you for 40 years, 10 years, 20 years, 11 years? The question is, are they going to do work they're proud of with people they care about, with customers they feel a sense of purpose to serve? And are they growing, developing in their journey, in their career, on their path? How do you play a role in that? And if you can help them be a part of something bigger than themselves, you can make marketing a culture and something where we're all together on a mission to support these people and grow. Then it's a question of partnership. Hey, subject matter experts, you have 30 years of experience in this, and we need to tap your knowledge and your experience because it's the only way for us to stay relevant for the customers we're trying to target. Marketing, you're great at writing and you're great at extracting value. We need you two to work together on a weekly cadence where every week you sit in on 3 meetings and you learn and you take notes, and all you're doing is taking the notes so you can extract as much value as possible. That's what feeds your blog content. That's what fuels your writing. That's what fuels your email campaign. You have to think about how marketing's integrated into the business. It shouldn't be an afterthought of like, oh, what videos should we make this week? It should be, how are we making use of every single day with the people we have that are so brilliant? And then you grow from there. And that culture, marketing, especially virtual. And then we'll close it out. Like when things feel like a department, especially virtual, then it feels like a silo. When it feels like a silo, it feels like you're in your own little company. But you're like, what's everybody else doing? Right? We've talked a lot about that. How do we build relations and like feel connected through the internet when we have people in 6, 7 different states and they're all over the place doing different things, right? We're like, is strategy connected to post-production and creative when like they may not be touching all the time? It's like marketing is in many ways a way to build culture because it gets everybody together. So another conversation for another day, but punchline being, figure out the role your people play in your marketing journey, especially if you have subject matter expertise and there's a need to have real depth of knowledge around your given subject to be relevant for your customer. Are you outsourcing that to a content creator? Are you extracting it from your subject matter expertise? Do you hire a a professional from the actual space you're targeting as a communication resource to bridge the gap between the company and that market, like a doctor for a healthcare organization? Like, what is your method and what is your strategy and what does that mean for everybody? Get clear on that and you'll move so much faster and it'll just be way more effective. And so that's what we got for today. For those watching the video or the last one, you might see a different background. Shout out from Florida. We've been on the move today, so I hope the audio is clean. Obviously, we're going to do our best. We got a little bit of higher ceilings than the studio we're used to. So my hope is that it sounds good from there. But that's the other piece I'll close out on is if you're virtual, you can do things virtually. You just have to set it up in a way that I can go with you. You don't have to be in some perfect, prissy studio where everything's perfect, right? It's just a matter of thinking it through. That's what we got for now. Steph, anything else?
Not at all.
Not at all. We're both actually out of our normal setups.
That's true. Yeah.
But we're in the same time zone, which makes this easier. So thanks, Steph, for coming to the East Coast just for our production session.
Happy to be of assistance.
All right, y'all. Everybody stay good. We'll be back soon with more. And depending on when this comes out, this is probably a November episode. Probably November episode.
November. Yeah.
November. Well, I hope everybody had a nice Halloween. Okay. We'll be back for more. Thank you guys. Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you liked the video, smash the like button and hit subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the new episodes. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. We will fold them into future episodes and make sure that you get the help and the answers you're really looking for all things marketing and communications.